Hi, Pool Guy. Found your YouTube recently, and wow, it is a great source of info. I subscribed. Anyway, I found your channel during my investigation into how to repair my own pool. I've been looking for a year and a half for someone in my area to help, and I can't get a consultation with anyone because they are either completely booked or they don't do major repairs. I have a pretty large gunite pool with a skimmer, bottom drain, and 3 return ports. I've located a collapsed or partially collapsed pipe on the main return line before it splits into the 3 separate lines, though there could be further damage on these lines I couldn't reach due to the collapse. I've pretty much accepted this is going to be a DIY project due to the lack of availability in my area, but boy, do I want to make sure that when I do this, I do it right and I don't cause damage to the pool. It seemingly isn't that complex a fix, and with basic concrete and plumbing knowledge, I should be able to do it. Could you walk me through a couple questions? My main questions of concern are, how can I prevent myself from hitting the gunite shell that is the actual pool, which I assume is separate from the concrete that is surrounding the pool and patio area? Does the shell typically cover the plumbing to the return ports? If I need to replace the entire pipe returning to the pool, is there a recommended method of what material to use around the pipe to ensure I don't have a leak around the fitting? What type of concrete should be poured over the PVC once the plumbing has been repaired? And am I crazy to think I can do this with myself and a few handy friends?
So I don't think that you're crazy. I think that you certainly can do this. You have to think of just the mechanics of how this works. You have a main drain and a skimmer that draw water back to the pool, and then back to the equipment, and then the pump sends it to the filter to the heater if there's a heater, and then back to the pool. So that return side that has the 3 returns is the pressure side. If you know where that leak is, break out that section of patio. We always, in the service end, want to take out as minimal as possible to try to save the look and whatever. However, break out a big enough area to be able to work. You're going to have to break out the concrete, dig down, find that collapse, cut it at both ends, and here's where the tricky part comes in. And this is the stuff that people don't often think about is, if you're now 6 inches underground, a foot underground, 2 feet underground, and you're working and you're hanging upside down, and now you have to put a piece of pipe back into the spot, you don't have the ability to flex things and move things to be able to reattach them. You have to think about, how am I going to be able to get the water that's coming from the equipment back into that line that's going to those returns? And sometimes you can, if it's all PVC, you can use, there's some slip couplings that you glue in one side and you slide glue the other one in and it seals. It's a permanent fix. Don't like them underground so much because you can't get to them later, but you may also have to add strain to the system, but you may have to elbow up at both ends, pre-make the piece and glue it down so now the plumbing does a little thing like this. Again, it depends on the situation. That's going to be your hardest part, is figuring out, once you get the collapsed section, figure out where you can have a good clean cut at both ends and get that out of there. How do you get the pieces back together? Once you do that, backfill it with whatever material you have, sand, stone, whatever, and then re-pour the patio and you'll be fine. The biggest challenge in this is getting it reconnected. Once you get it reconnected, you're free to go, and you don't have to pour concrete around that plumbing unless you want to. I would backfill it with stone or sand and then just recap the patio with your 3.5 inches of patio mix on top. And I would just use the yellow bags of Quikrete that you can buy at any of the big box stores.
Any concern with hitting the gunite shell?
I don't know what that means exactly, because the plumbing runs behind the shell, not in the shell.
And it's
it shouldn't be
with
in the shell. It's backfilled with whatever
sand.
The material was. It could be sand, it could be stone, it could be slag, it could have been the dirt that they took out of there, it could be, there's all kinds of stuff. The concern would be, if they shot the plumbing in the wall of the shell, which technically is not supposed to be done. If that's the case, then you got to cut into the shell to get to the plumbing. Whole nother animal. But otherwise, if it's on the outside of the shell, they should be able to cut through the patio, break the patio out, and get to the plumbing. Other than the last piece that elbows in and goes into the pool, it sounds to me like that's not where the leak is. It sounds like the collapse is before it tees off into those, so it shouldn't be any problem at all.